It's been 5 years since we first visited Yellowstone National Park, and we went back this spring with the knowledge from our last trip, but it was a whole different experience. We're going to share all about it and our tips for visiting Yellowstone National Park. This is RV Miles. Chances are you've seen them on the road. That's because Blue Ox designs and manufactures the best towing products in the industry. Just look around. You'll find them on highways, in campgrounds, and anywhere you find people traveling in the great outdoors. From award-winning tow bars and base plates to a full line of weight-distributing hitches, adjustable ball mounts, and now they have fifth-wheel hitches too. With Blue Ox, towing doesn't have to be a drag. Visit BlueOx.com for more information. Harvest Host is a membership that allows RVers to take a rest from the road and enjoy unlimited overnight stays at over 5,100 unique locations in North America, like breweries, farms, attractions, wineries, and much more. Easily plan and book your next RV trip and enjoy over $1,500 in exclusive member benefits by joining Harvest Host. Get 15% off your first year of membership with the code MILES. That's MILES. Go to harvesthost.com to become a Harvest Host member today. Welcome to episode number 366 of RV Miles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Abby. And we are two RVers who, along with our three boys, have been crisscrossing all over North America on one epic road trip since 2016. Here at RV Miles, we talk all things RV and outdoors, from industry news to travel destinations, national parks, and who knows what else.
We first visited Yellowstone National Park in 2020. So it was the height of the COVID pandemic, and especially the height of closures of COVID. So most of the buildings were closed. The vibe was much different. There was also a lot of wildfire smoke. A lot of people were avoiding the park and areas in the Northwest because of the fire smoke. And it was a different time of year. We went in August. So this time we visited in May. The park was completely open for the most part, and things were quite different. So we're excited to share about all the details of our visit this time. And we've learned so much more about Yellowstone, and we have so much more to offer people to learn about Yellowstone, because I think it's really important when you visit Yellowstone to have a plan going in. It is not a park that, I guess you can just show up and explore, but you'll get a lot more out of it if you have an idea of at least the things you plan on doing and where to go and how far away from everything is.
Yeah, so we should say, much like this episode, Yellowstone is big. Okay, so this is a big episode today in the sense that there's no chit chat before. We're just diving in. We need to dive into Yellowstone because we have about 7 pages of show notes here. Okay, so there's a lot to cover. And so if you joined us, our last travel episode that we did, which was 364, we were in Grand Teton National Park and in Alpine, Wyoming, Jackson Hole. We talked about all of that. So we left that area and made for Yellowstone. And this is really common. This is something that a lot of people do when they're visiting this area. It's very easy to be able to kind of couple Grand Teton, a trip to Grand Teton National Park, with a trip to Yellowstone National Park. Now, both of these parks are deserving, and you could spend weeks, if not months, and never see everything that this park has to offer, both for Yellowstone or Grand Teton. So keep that in mind when you couple these together. Give them the space and time they deserve. We did not have enough time in Grand Teton National Park. No. And I'm sure that was really clear on the last episode.
And Yellowstone is significantly larger, more vast. So we could have come in through the south entrance of Yellowstone National Park, which goes, right through Grand Teton National Park. But our first campground was in the town of West Yellowstone. And West Yellowstone, not surprisingly, is the western entrance of the park. There are 5 main entrances to the park. Actually, most of the entrances to the park had just opened days before we arrived. There are lots of roads to plow. They get a ton of snow in the winter. And the north entrance is the only entrance that's open year round.
Now, you might be saying to yourself, hold up, Jason and Abby. I'm a mile marker member. I'm not even a mile marker member. I was there when you guys went through this whole itinerary. And you never mentioned staying in West Yellowstone.
No.
You talked a lot about staying in the park. So what happened? So like a lot of themes in this spring trip, it's spring, weather is very unpredictable. And we were supposed to stay at Mammoth. We had a reservation to stay there. And we were only going to be there for 2 or 3 nights. Now, if you know Mammoth Campground in Yellowstone, this is a dry camping, no hookups at all campground, which is wonderful. And we had more than enough capabilities to be able to do that. However, those few days that we were supposed to be there were looking to be pretty nasty weather-wise, in the sense that complete and total cloud cover the whole time, temperatures well down below freezing, and just general rain and snow. And to be honest, that did not sound like something that we really wanted to do on no hookups with the kids.
And that's the first lesson of Yellowstone, is that you can get any sort of weather any day of the year.
Yeah.
It can snow in August.
And so we switched it up and decided to go to a private campground in West Yellowstone. And also part of that was because when we said we were headed to Yellowstone, one of the first comments made to us was, "Oh, we're not going to West Yellowstone. We love it there." And that
we
was
do
the
love
kids.
West Yellowstone. And
so we decided to surprise them.
but early spring or late spring, as it was here, it was mid-May. Yellowstone is still cold. There's still snow on the ground. And that snow is melting and creating mud, and there's rainstorms, and there's a whole lot of stuff to deal with.
There will be a theme throughout this whole episode. And if you want to play along, you can take a drink every time you hear the word snow or below freezing.
So we did stay in West Yellowstone, and we do love the town of West Yellowstone. So
we do.
But we only stayed here for part of our trip, and we'll get to the other campground that we did stay at in the park for the other part of the trip. But we did stay in West Yellowstone, and West Yellowstone is a really cool town. It's a historic town, and we got some time to sort of explore a little bit of that history while we were here. But we did stay at the Yellowstone Grizzly RV Park, or as most people just call it, the Grizzly RV Park.
Yep.
Which was a really nice campground. We stayed in a pull-through site. Some of the roads are a little tight, but you've got plenty of trees. It backs up to national forest land, so you can take a trail out in the national forest. You walk your dog back there or stuff like that.
I thought that it felt really nice and kind of secluded for what it was, for being a private campground in West Yellowstone, because when we were there in 2020, we stayed at Buffalo Crossing.
Yeah.
And that is just a parking lot, a dirt parking lot with spaces. It is nice that it's backed right up to Yellowstone National Park. You are right next to that west entrance to the park. But in all honesty, for a little bit more, if you're going to pay the kind of prices that you're going to pay to stay in West Yellowstone, then my recommendation is Yellowstone Grizzly RV Park is worth the extra little bit, because you don't feel it. You feel okay being like, when you're there at the campground, it feels nice to be there at the campground. The views are really, really beautiful. And so, was it Mammoth? No, it wasn't. But did it give us an opportunity to kind of go back to some of the places in West Yellowstone that we actually really loved and enjoyed when we were there in 2020, and do some things that we didn't get to do in 2020? Yeah, and that was really nice.
And that's the nice thing about a couple of the RV parks in West Yellowstone, is that they are really in West Yellowstone. There are a few others that are on the outside of town, but this park and the one we stayed at last time, you could walk into town and explore town without having to get in your car, get in your rig, whatever it might be, and go to the restaurants and explore everything in town. So real quick, we're going to run through some of the things that we did in the town of West Yellowstone. So first of all, let's talk about just walking around and touring. So you and I, without the kids, and this is one of the other great things about being able to park right here, we're able to do a little bit of sort of the history walking tour of West Yellowstone. You
Yeah.
did more than I did.
Oh, yeah. So they have, okay, so this is really great. Y'all know I love old timey stuff. So they have a brochure that you can get that's a walking tour. I think it's like 20 different spots that you can go to, and you can walk around West Yellowstone, the town of West Yellowstone, and you can learn about its history. And that is super cool. And so I went off and I did that for a little bit by myself with the idea that I was going to meet up with my family and we were going to go into the museum, because there's also a West Yellowstone museum. So West Yellowstone has a really rich history, and I won't go into all of it because we can't be here for 2 hours. But I do want to just highlight one really magical thing that happened to me while I was on this walking tour. So I went up to the kind of like generator engine house, and I was standing in there and I was reading about it. And it was really cool because it was from like the unit was from Chicago. And so I was like kind of, just checking it out. And this work truck like pulls up alongside of me, and he says to me, "Oh, are the lights on in there for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." And he's like, "Oh, I really, pushed to have this opened back up." He's kind of like the property manager, so like the overseer there for like the park district or whatever it is that oversees all these different historical buildings. And so I was like, "Yeah, no, this is really great. It's really fascinating. Thank you." And he's like, "Do you want to see something even cooler?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course I do." And so he took me into, they have what used to be a dining hall that when the train would come through and it would bring in people to West Yellowstone, there was this really beautiful old dining hall that is now closed off to the public, and it only opens for private events or things like that. And so and it's also some of their administrative buildings are in this area now. And so he took me in there, and he took me into this stunning, just stunning dining hall. And I stood in there with him, and I got to see it has this beautiful arrowhead fireplace on one end that's massive. And they were getting set up for a wedding that was going to come in there and kind of kick off their season that weekend. And then I ended up standing there and talking to him and sort of the curator of the whole place. The three of us stood and talked for a really long time, and they shared a lot of stories with me. And he told me this insane story about being attacked by a grizzly. Unbelievable, this story he told me. So I sat with them and probably talked like a half an hour, and then they took me into the industrial kitchen where they used to be making these meals for hundreds of people as they would come through. And it was super cool. It just was happenstance that he came by and he asked me this question, and he must have sensed that, oh my gosh, a person by themselves on the walking tour. This must be someone who really wants to know the history of West Yellowstone. I can sense that this is an old timey soul. So it was great that, I got to go in there and check that out. So even if you don't get that particular sort of curated experience, just walking it and kind of learning the history of the town is really cool, because a lot of the buildings you go into, like with the kitschy little shops now, well, those all have like some historical background, and that's really was a lot of fun to do, and was quite a treat for me that I got to have that experience, even though it's not really something my whole family is into. But when those opportunities arise where I can take off on these walking tours, I always do it, because you just never know who you're going to run into.
I did go with you through they had a historic train. I can't remember if it's a Pullman train, but like a 1920s train that they have that you can walk through front to back the whole train. And it's really cool to see like these sleeper cabins. And so some of it I was like, oh, that's a good idea for RV design 100 years later.
So many good ideas. And what's really nice about this time of year too, because the town is just starting to come alive. Okay, so we were there shortly the week after Mother's Day. So this is mid-May. The town is just now starting to come alive. Like the seasonals are starting to come in. There's not a lot of people here yet. So you get to go through these places, like in this train that was right next to a restaurant, like in the lobby of that restaurant. We didn't encounter a single soul as we were walking through this. So, you kind of had this experience all to yourself. And this is a little bit of a theme, I think, a lot throughout our time here in Yellowstone. It was so early in the season that there was just enough, but not all. And that was even, we're going to talk in a second here about Firehole Barbecue. I mean, I guess we can move into it now, but that experience of going there when we went this time in May, as opposed to when we went in August of 2020 and the line was wrapped out the door and down the sidewalk. And then this time in May of 2025, well, we just walked right in and just walked right up to the counter and ordered.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, we need to get there because there's gonna be a line. And
they
there
only cook
was
so much each day and they run out. So let's talk
nothing.
about the places we ate. So
Yeah.
Firehole Barbecue was a place that we loved last time we came to Yellowstone. And
I
we
loved
were
it just as
excited to
much.
go back. And we're happy to say that it was every bit as good. It is some of the look, we are barbecue lovers. Abby's from Kansas City. And I have eaten a lot of Kansas
I
City
was gonna
barbecue. And
Abby's from Kansas
not
City.
a whole lot of barbecue here. But
I've eaten a lot of barbecue.
but you know, we've had barbecue all around the country, but I do like to say that all barbecue is good. Let's stop shaming barbecue. It's all good. And you can get good barbecue wherever.
You fresh tanked this a few weeks
I
ago.
did.
This is a real
Firehole
mission
barbecue
of yours.
is every bit as good as any other barbecue in the country. It is, you know, it's just a place that you walk in and order from a counter. Their beans are excellent, which is really important. They have this
The corn.
great corn with Fritos in it.
Oh,
Incredible.
chef's
The
kiss.
smoked sausage, but it's really all about the brisket.
Yeah.
And it's just really fantastic. So visit Firehole Barbecue. They are one of those places. And this is how you know a real barbecue place is they make the barbecue in the morning. And when they run out for the day, they are out for the day. If they don't do that, that means they're heating stuff in an oven.
Yeah. So I do suspect that as the season goes on, that line that I just referenced that was out the door from August of 2020, I do not doubt the further you get into the season in West Yellowstone, that becomes more common as the days will go by. So if you plan to be in Yellowstone at the peak of tourist season and in the summer, then if you want to eat at this place, get there and get in line.
The other place we ate at that we want to recommend is Canyon Street Grill. This was sort of a diner feel, like an old fashioned diner feel. And we all just, you know, it's sort of like,
oh yeah,
fairly inexpensive diner food, like something for everybody type deal. Nothing crazy special.
No.
But they do have like, you know, local root beers and stuff like that. And
They were very nice. The decor was a lot of fun. The chili cheese fries were great. Like, it's just, if you want to sit down and like have a diner experience, like, you know, that was a real treat, a real surprise. I will say though, only 4 out of 5 of us went because one of us was like, oh, there's a McDonald's, I'm out.
he walked and bought his own McDonald's.
You do you, kid. I loved that for him. He was like, I haven't seen a McDonald's in like X amount of weeks. And we were like, hey, you go. This is the nice thing about these gateway towns sometimes, especially when you're traveling with older kids or just in a group. There are so many options.
It had been weeks.
It had been weeks. And there are so many options. And it is so fine to just be like, I'm going to go do this walking tour. You're going to go have some McDonald's. Hey, you're going to that bookstore. You want to go to the candy store. Great. And then we'll all meet back up at a designated spot in a little bit. And I really enjoy that about places like West Yellowstone and when you can stay in towns like this with the RV, because it gives everybody a little bit of something that they want.
So one more place we want to recommend in West Yellowstone before we get to the park itself is the Book Peddler and Coffee Cafe. This is also a place that we loved our first visit, and it's still there and it's still great. It's a coffee shop that is 2/3 bookstore, really.
Love it.
So, and it's also just a really good national park bookstore. So there are lots of Yellowstone books. There are lots of books on all the national parks. And, you know, of course, you're supporting a small business and all that instead of like Aramark. But it's good coffee, and it's a great vibe to just sort of, it's one of those places where you can actually sit and work or, you know, that sort of stuff and hang out.
We love that place. Make sure you go there.
More in a moment, but first, this episode is sponsored by our friends over at RVmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding, where you can get a real mattress for your RV made by a real mattress company. You bought this RV so you could travel around and sleep comfortably in it. Don't use the cheap piece of foam that the original RV manufacturer put in there. RVmattress.com is where you can find mattresses in all the odd shapes and sizes that RV manufacturers make these platforms in, but they're real mattresses made in their factory in Arizona, vacuum sealed, and shipped to you wherever you are. Their mattresses are 100% toxin free. They have a 120-night sleep trial, and they're good enough to use in your home. We've not only had Brooklyn bedding mattresses in our last couple homes, but in our last 3 RVs. They are just a fantastic sleep. And for being a member of the RV Miles community, you get 30% off, which is the best offer they ever offer. You go to rvmattress.com/RVMiles and use the code RVMiles at checkout, and you're going to get 30% off your next purchase from rvmattress.com by Brooklyn Bedding. This episode is sponsored by the folks at RV Life. The RV lifestyle is about community, and the RV community is at the heart of RV Life. RV Life recently celebrated the 1 millionth trip planned with RV Life Trip Wizard, their excellent trip planning tool for RVers, featuring all the trusted reviews, pictures, and tips from their RV Life campground site. RV Life also features several blog sites and over 20 additional RVing forums to serve the RV community. All this experience and community feedback come together to help create a fantastic RV trip planner and mobile navigation tool collectively called RV Life Pro. RV Life has marked a milestone of over 3 billion miles traveled using RV Life Pro, counting both the planned RV trips and ad hoc navigation within the included RV Safe mobile app. Take 25% off RV Life Pro at the link in the description for this episode. So, Yellowstone National Park.
Ooh, okay. Big park.
I think the thing to do with Yellowstone is kind of imagine it in 4 quadrants. There's, the park is the Grand Loop Road makes a big, like, zero shape through the park. And then there's a road that goes through the middle of the zero. So it's almost like a figure 8, but don't think of it as a figure 8 that kind of crosses like an X. Think of it like an old digital clock figure 8, where there's like, what's it? The 7 segments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, the 7 segment digital clock sort of thing. So it's sort of an O shape with a line through the middle. So
tell me you're old without telling me you're old.
I know. If you drove the entire circle of the Grand Loop Road, it would take you hours. It's a very, very, very large park. I cannot say that enough.
And that's if you don't stop. That's not taking into account.
Everybody's stopping, whether you want to or not. Yes. The bison are going to stop you.
Yes.
Or the people watching the bison. Yeah. So we do we do love the drive into the park from West Yellowstone. Doing it over and over can get a little tedious because there's not a ton on the way in, because not only do you traverse the park through this Grand Loop Road, it probably takes about a half hour to get to the Grand Loop Road
from West Yellowstone. Yes, let's make that clear.
There's some time involved in getting in and out of the park. While we were in West Yellowstone, we mainly visited the southwest quadrant of the park, which is where you're going to find the upper and lower Geyser Basin and the midway Geyser Basin, which is where you're going to find in all those places like Grand Prismatic Spring, Old Faithful Inn, some of the sort of really well-known portions of the park. So
I would say for our kids, and I don't want to speak for all kids in general, but I would say that this is the part of the park that holds the most attention for our kids. Yeah. They really, really like this part of the park because it hits on a lot of different features that are like the big things about Yellowstone, right? So you've got Old Faithful, you've got Grand Prismatic, you're going to get tons of bison, you've got loop roads that you can drive, you've got waterfalls, you've got thermal features and springs. I always say if you only have, for me, a couple of days that you can spend in this park, that your time is so short, this is the section of the park that I would say if for first timers, this is the section of the park to visit. Is it the best part of the park? In my opinion, no. But is it the part of the park that can give you a little bit of probably all those pictures you've seen over the years that you've been dreaming of getting to Yellowstone? 100%.
So the first thing we did on our first day in the park was we drove the Firehole Canyon Drive, which is sort of a scenic loop drive. There's 3 or 4 of these scenic loop drives in the park, and I think a lot of people skip these. They don't really make a big deal out of pointing them out in the park, but they're all very good. And Firehole Canyon Drive was something that we remembered doing last time
Hmm.
and really enjoyed this time. It used to be a place where you could go swim in the river. They've kind of closed all that sort of stuff off, but you can make this drive and you can see the Firehole River raging through this canyon, and some beautiful stops for waterfalls and some sort of just great views of stuff that isn't kind of the typical Yellowstone, which is what we're going to get into next. So
Yeah, and if you don't have time to get over there and see the, big old Yellowstone Falls, this is a great drive to get kind of an idea of like just how powerful falls are in Yellowstone.
So Yellowstone is really known for its thermal features. It's the only place in the world where you have this kind of collection of geysers and thermal features. I think, don't quote me on this, I think there are more of those sort of things in Yellowstone than there are in the entirety of the rest of the world, at least when it comes to geysers.
Fact
And
check.
and uh, the reality is they are just incredibly awesome. And this time of year, I think they looked quite different than they did when we were there the time before because it was cooler. Some days in the middle of the day, we were maybe seeing 35 to 45 degrees. Some days more, but there were some days where it was down there so that hot water is creating lots and lots and lots of steam and fog. And it was really cool.
So the walk when we went through Grand Prismatic, we didn't see Grand
We
Prismatic.
could not see Grand Prismatic.
We couldn't see it.
You could see the edge of it. That day was really foggy.
We could barely see the boardwalk that we were on. We still did it. But, that is, I think, with these shoulder season visits, you do run the risk a little bit that something like that, these features that are low down to the ground, or even when you're looking up in mountains and they're encased in clouds, you do run the risk of not being able to see them in the way that you want to.
We probably could have came back a couple hours later and it would have been entirely different because the weather did change a lot. So one thing we did learn was if the weather's looking like it's not going to be the greatest in a day, don't give up on that entire day because there are going to be windows that are nice.
Yeah.
And Yellowstone is a great park for not the greatest weather because some of the stuff is down low.
Oh, this park is alive and is in its most beautiful when there is snow, dustings of snow on the ground, when it is snowing. So the couple days that we were in West Yellowstone and we came into the park to really explore sort of the southwest side, it snowed pretty much the whole time. Not snow that was sticking down to the ground, but it was this beautiful kind of thick, heavy, wet snow that sort of melted as it hit the ground. And it was so stunning. I'll never forget it. It was so beautiful.
So coming around the bend from the Firehole Canyon Drive, we visited the Midway and Lower Geyser basins. I always get this screwed up because the Upper Geyser Basin is the southernmost geyser basin. Yeah. I don't know if it's elevation or what it is, but we went to the Lower Geyser Basin. We saw the fountain paint pots, which is one of our favorite things to see. There's also the artist paint pots that we didn't get to this time, but the fountain paint pots are very similar. And what it is the water in these thermal features is so acidic that it melts the rock and turns it into this acidic mud that bubbles and boils and flings mud everywhere. And it's really cool to watch, and it makes some of the weirdest, funnest sounds. Yeah. We go to the Midway Geyser Basin, which is where Grand Prismatic was, and it was very, very foggy.
Snowed the whole time we were walking around it.
But we did spend a lot of time down in the Old Faithful area, which is the Upper Geyser Basin.
We should note, though, before we get to Old Faithful, that we did pass Biscuit Basin, but it is still closed. So that's why we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah, Biscuit Basin. Remember, there was a big explosion last year of a thermal feature just exploded.
And you just talked about that in a recent
they
news
just
video.
put a webcam in, so
yeah.
So they can and there have been a couple smaller explosions since then. So it's a really great lesson in the geology of Yellowstone because anything can change at any time. A geyser that goes off regularly, um, even as regularly as Old Faithful, next year could be completely different. You just don't know what will happen, and sometimes they just explode and disappear altogether.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
So the Old Faithful area is definitely the southern hub of the park. It's there's a lot of action down there. There's a lot of parking. There's a lot of lodging. There isn't a campground down there except for an employee campground. Um, but it is an area where you can spend a lot of time. And a lot of people look at it as, oh, Old Faithful's here. I'm just going to go see Old Faithful go off and then I'll be done. But what they don't realize is that there's a big boardwalk that you can walk around the Upper Geyser Basin at Old Faithful.
I would argue that the boardwalk walk is more entertaining than watching Old Faithful go off because both times that now we didn't get to do the full walk this time.
Yeah.
But as we were sitting there waiting for Old Faithful, we were watching off in the background on this boardwalk several other geysers that started going off. And that's pretty frequent, like on that walk. And you get a slightly, I don't want to say closer experience back there when those start kind of firing off. You get less of a crowd experience. You get a little bit more of like, this is me in the park having a conversation kind of experience. When you sit down to watch Old Faithful, there's stadium seating almost. Like,
there's stadium benches.
Yeah, it's, making a horseshoe around Old Faithful in order to accommodate, especially during peak season, all of the people that are going to watch this with you. And that can be really thrilling as you hear everyone just kind of make exclamations of, ooh, and ah, as it's happening. But there is also something about being out there on that boardwalk while everyone else is sitting there watching Old Faithful and having that experience alone. So don't skip out on that. Please do the boardwalk.
This area of the park is also sort of a really historic area of the park. And this is sort of a theme of this trip for us was because in 2020, everything was closed. That was a building.
Mm-hmm.
We were this time able to do all the visitor centers, of course. So there's a great visitor center at Old Faithful where you can see a park film. There's a little tiny, educational area and there's the bookstore and all of that. But you can also go through the historic buildings down there. So there's the Old Faithful Lodge, and then there's the Old Faithful Snow Lodge, and then there's the Old Faithful Inn.
Mm-hmm.
And they are very confusing to remember the names of them.
Still don't know which one we were in or which one we didn't go in.
The Old Faithful Lodge is where there's employee housing and where there's a big cafeteria style restaurant, which is meh. It's not the greatest food. If you do, I will give you the tip though. If you do eat at the Old Faithful Lodge cafeteria, to not go at the end of the day when they are running out of everything.
Yeah, the mac and cheese was like a -5
sitting all day
on
long.
The scale for our family, our kids.
The Old Faithful Inn is the beautiful, historic, old-fashioned National Park Lodge.
Oh my gosh.
And this was such an incredible experience for us.
We walked in to a violin player up on the second floor landing playing just the most beautiful music. And there's this big stone fireplace and they've got it going and chairs all around it. And the violin player is serenading you all in there. And it's so lovely.
It's really hard to describe the scale of the interior of this lobby. And, of course, you can stay in the rooms. Most of the rooms, or maybe all of the rooms, don't have bathrooms. It's kind of that
Some
sort
of
of thing.
them don't. It's I believe the newer editions.
They did have a room open, sort of on the main level, so you could see what the historic rooms look like. There is a big restaurant in there that we had hoped to go to, but we decided ultimately against it just because it was going to be a Jason and Abby thing, and we didn't want to spend too many times driving that far from the kids.
Yeah.
But we did go into the Bear Pit Lounge, which is like a cocktail lounge. It was snowing.
Oh,
It's not snow. It was
no, it
It's
was beautiful.
that grapple stuff. It's like these little. It's like little pellets. It looks like styrofoam pellets, but harder.
Well, it started as snow. So we got
Yeah.
a nice seat
Yeah.
by the window, kind of looking out onto the lawn, kind of where you would be heading if you're going to go see Old Faithful. And we got a seat there. And I had a huckleberry margarita, which
Everything's huckleberry.
everything is huckleberry. I had a huckleberry margarita. We got some chips and salsa. We all, snacked. And Jason,
Old fashioned.
you got an old fashioned, pretty predictable, delicious drink for you. And we sat there and we watched the snow. Then we watched it turn into these little ice pellets that you just referenced. And we had our server. She was so wonderful. And she just, kept coming and checking on the kids and checking on us and, encouraging us to sit and stay as long as we wanted and just enjoy the atmosphere.
It's
And
kind of is it circular or like octagonal?
it's kind of octagonal,
type room. So,
right off of the main dining restaurant.
Yeah, and at least maybe half of it has just all these giant windows.
Yeah,
So
full bar.
you can get some great views of the outdoors. And
It was so nice.
and we had a fantastic time exploring that entire lodge. It's well worth it to go in there, even if you're not staying there, and
Yeah.
just see what the lodge is like. Maybe have a meal there,
Or have
something
a
like that.
cocktail and just watch, the world go by for a little bit. That was one of my highlight moments at Yellowstone.
We didn't get to go to the historic Old Faithful General Store because it was not open yet for the
No.
year. So, the traditional Yellowstone season, I think, is like Memorial Day to
Labor
to-
Day-ish.
not quite Labor Day. It starts to get cold in September. So it's a short season, and there were a few things that weren't open yet, and that general store was one of them. There are plenty of other giant gift shops down there that you can go to if you're looking for souvenir shopping and all that sort of stuff.
So that's what we did while we stayed in West Yellowstone. We really used West Yellowstone as the base for exploring
Just
that.
southwest quadrant of the park.
From there, we left and we finally got to go and stay at a campground that lots of RVers know about, lots of RVers talk about, and RV Miles had never been there before. So we headed into the park and we had reservations at Fishing Bridge. So Fishing Bridge is kind of located.
It's in the southeast quadrant.
Thank you. I'm trying to see the map in my head.
It's
and
near so Yellowstone Lake is against the southeast quadrant.
Yeah.
And it's near Yellowstone Lake.
Okay. So we moved there to Fishing Bridge and we were in their upper level. So at Fishing Bridge, when you come in, you've got two lower levels and then one upper level.
Yeah, the lower levels is the small RVs, and then
Yes.
the upper level is a lot of big sites for
And
big
then
RVs.
Class A Hill is where we were.
And
So-
the park was packed this time of year. The Fishing
Yes.
Bridge is always packed when it's open, because it's hard to get reservations
Yeah.
for.
And it had just opened. They had
and-
just started their season.
The first thing I think it's important to say is that because of the size of the park, we would recommend that you do stay at multiple places. So stay at West Yellowstone and then Fishing Bridge, or stay at Fishing Bridge and
Mammoth.
up at Mammoth, or stay at Madison. Wherever you go, if you stay at a few different places, you'll have home bases to explore some of the park that's closer to those campgrounds, and you'll really save a lot on time, because it can take you, some of these places to go to from West Yellowstone. If we wanted to go the furthest away we could go in the park, it would probably take us 2.5 hours.
Yeah. When we were there in 2020, West Yellowstone was our home base the whole time we were there. And for sure, this time, thanks to staying in Fishing Bridge, we were able to explore and see parts of the park or take our time in parts of the park that we did not get to do in 2020. And so, like Jason was saying, it really does help to kind of have these different little home bases and then just focus in on those areas there and really try to get as much as you can out of your time in that particular like little quadrant of the park. And so, we're at Fishing Bridge. We had our full hookups pull through up there in Class A row. They have things at Fishing Bridge that you can get if you don't have full hookups, or they've got showers available, and they do give you these little shower tokens when you check in for however many days you are there. And then you have these tokens that you can use should you choose with the showers that they have available. They have laundry. Laundry's really expensive. I think it was going to be about $8 a load. And that wasn't for like big commercial washers. That's literally one small washer, one small dryer. So I think it was going to be like $7.50, $8.
It's the only laundry available to RVers in the park. So if you're not going there, you're going out to West Yellowstone, or you're going up north to Gardner.
Yeah. So this is another thing too. If you are coming from West Yellowstone, or you're coming from anywhere and you're heading for Fishing Bridge, like I talked about on do your laundry and do your grocery shopping. I talked about that when we did our Grand Teton overview about how even though I had just done some laundry in Alpine, I went ahead before we left that private campground. I went ahead and did all of the laundry again because I knew that we were going to be heading into a section of travel where laundry was going to get super expensive. And then I tried to do as much as I could grocery shopping wise before we got there, because I also knew that we were going to be incredibly limited and it was going to get really expensive. So those are some things to consider when you're pulling your house with you and you're headed to Fishing Bridge. So
Fishing Bridge is fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. It's
you're not there for the RV. You're not there for the campground.
Kind of crammed in close to each other. You're there for the access to the park.
Yep.
It's nothing special, but it's also nothing bad. It's nice. It's newly remodeled, and it's great.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
It also doesn't allow any soft-sided camper. So
no.
if you've got a hybrid with pullouts, or you've got a pop-up, or you've got tents, nothing soft-sided is allowed because of bears.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It's even in West Yellowstone and anywhere here in this area, you are in bear country. In fact, when we were at the campground in West Yellowstone, we had gotten a text message that a bear had been in the campground, had been in the area.
Yeah, they want you to put, you don't want to keep like your grill outside, anything like that. Of course, you don't want to keep any food outside either. But if you're cooking on outside cooking appliances, you're going to put them away at any of these campgrounds.
And this time of year, the bears are just starting to wake up. It's spring. We've got a lot of babies, a lot of territories being protected right now. So you need to take all of these when they say these are the rules. Really take them seriously, because it's not only to keep you safe, but it's also to keep wildlife safe so that they don't have to be put down or anything because they've become accustomed to human food, or
which just happened with a grizzly. Yeah.
While we were in Yellowstone, that had happened to a grizzly, unfortunately.
Now, we did have a little bit of an issue with Fishing Bridge. There was a heavy snowstorm. We got a ton of snow one day. And after that, I don't know if it knocked out a power line or something like that, but the campground was running on generator power for a while. And while it was running on generator power, we kept getting our power watch dog was shutting off. And this is good tip. This is why you have a smart surge protector, because if you were plugged in, you would without one, you would not have known this. But the power that was coming out of that generator was not clean enough for the watchdog. It was not happy with it, and it kept shutting off. The frequency was actually changing, which is never something I've ever experienced before, is that the power frequencies, normally 60 hertz in the US, I think, was dropping too low. It was out of the range of safe possibilities. So it was shutting off. And of course, we're at Fishing Bridge, full hookups, not planning on using our awesome battery power system from Mastervolt and ABC Upfitters, but we needed to use it. Because when the generator was running, our power was not clean. So we just kept the power shut off when the watchdog didn't want it to be on. But then at some point, they shut the generator off.
Well, the generator stopped. They didn't have enough fuel for it was
fuel or what? I don't know.
something.
They said fuel. Another camper said it was fuel. I don't know why that's the case because there's a fuel station that had plenty of fuel right outside of Fishing Bridge. But
Maybe it was more that the power that was
Yeah.
coming out of it wasn't staying clean enough.
it could have
and
been, but they did shut the
who
power off,
knows?
which was absolutely fine for us who had ton of battery backup power. But I did feel bad for some of the people in like camping vans and stuff like
across
that.
from us.
A lot of rental RVs that definitely aren't going to have much when it comes battery wise. So
honestly, we wouldn't have known that the power was tripping.
We didn't know actually at first.
We didn't. And it was only because the fireplace was turning off.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing we can't run on battery power.
I had yet to set the Watchdog has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and I had yet to set that up. I've just been plugging it in, and I finally got around to setting the Bluetooth up on my phone so that I could actually monitor it.
Yeah. And so we just, we did everything.
We just dealt with it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it didn't impact us at all. We just kept running things. Like it didn't really.
It's a good lesson to at least upgrade your battery system a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
To at least put a lithium battery in, because that stuff can happen.
But
right?
here's the difference, I think, too, between the Grizzly RV Resort in West Yellowstone that we stayed at and staying here at Fishing Bridge, running by this concessionaire. Not once did anyone ever inform us
No idea.
that the power was having issues, that they were running generator, or that the power had gone down. These were all pieces of information that we campers gleaned from one another throughout that morning.
This is not a National Park Service ran park. This is ran by Xanterra, the concessionaire. They certainly had our email addresses. They emailed us a welcome email and stuff. There's no reason they couldn't have emailed everyone in the park. They didn't.
And there were people staying there. This is very cold weather. So we had below freezing temps the night that we were having these power issues. It was very cold the next day. There were people there that were just running on traditional batteries in their RV that without power were incapable of really doing anything. In fact, our neighbors across from us, they were starting to get to a point they didn't have a generator. They were kind of like, well, we're kind of getting to a point where we're hoping the power is going to be coming back on soon. And, again, to compare it to that other campground, we were getting text messages every afternoon while we were there saying, hey, make sure to unplug water tonight. It's going to be below freezing. We want to make sure everybody stays safe. So before you go to bed tonight, go ahead and unplug that water from the spigot. Everything, we've had a grizzly sighting. Just make sure. Here's the communication between you and the campground as to what's going on, especially these times of year where it's it's the beginning of the season and things are a little everything's starting to open up. The weather is all over the place. There's a lot of possibilities for some mishaps. The communication between that campground and West Yellowstone was spectacular. The communication between Fishing Bridge was pathetic at best.
Yeah, I guess that's all to say about it. But it is a great spot to visit some of the park. So there is stuff to do around Fishing Bridge. There is stuff that's walkable. We went over to, there's a visitor center there. The visitor center was not open for this season, but you could walk in the area of the visitor center and walk over to Yellowstone Lake and view the lake. We did a podcast episode we recorded in front of the lake. You can walk down to the Fishing Bridge, which you cannot fish off of anymore.
No fishing at Fishing Bridge.
But we had one of the best experiences we've ever had on the road at Fishing Bridge. Just Abby and I, we'd walk down in the morning and there was all this ice that had been coming in from the lake flows into the river. The bridge crosses a river, but the Yellowstone Lake flows into this river, and all this ice from this lake, the big thick ice coming in and jamming up at the mouth of the river, is it the mouth at the mouth is the end of the river, this point of the river.
You're asking the wrong person.
At the river and at the bridge, they're hitting the posts that hold the bridge up and everything.
Yeah.
So we walk down there and all of this ice is just floating there. It's kind of stopped. It's jammed. It's just sitting there. And we're looking around and we're about to move on. And all of a sudden it starts making some noise. And we start to see little pieces start to look like they want to break off. And we're like, man, if we stay here for a while, maybe we'll watch something break off. And we stayed for a little bit, nothing happened. And we're thinking maybe we're going to go. And you're
maybe
like,
we need to go.
and then you said, I think that piece right there, that big piece is about to break off.
to go.
And sure enough, like a minute later, this giant giant floating island of ice breaks off and moves on. And
then it
then it was a
was
cascade.
on.
It was
It was
everything.
on.
And these pieces of ice are sort of slowly crashing into each other
Oh, man.
and overlapping each other. And you kind of, what I thought was kind of
Ice crystals are popping up.
oh yeah,
and
these
it
beautiful ice
just-
crystals. I kind of thought it was like watching the earth evolve and mountains form in a very
Yes,
short amount
like
of time.
tectonic
Like you're seeing the plates
plates.
crash into each other and the mountains rise,
And
but it's just ice, and it was just doing it very quickly.
it was
And
unreal. And we stood there for the longest time, like two nerds, just felt like trying to catch our baby walking for the first time, its first steps. We were just filming constantly. And
you
it
know,
it was, oh my
we
gosh,
thought-
it was amazing.
that we would bring the kids back.
Yeah, because we thought, oh, look, something they will love. And it's educational.
And I went out, so we went back home, and then I went out to record a video, and I came back and no ice.
It was
Complete,
fun.
all
It was
zero
fun.
ice, all gone.
It was just this really
was
magical
really special
moment
moment.
that
Yeah.
we happened to be fortunate enough to kind of be there. And this is the beauty of national parks in general, but I think this is kind of the silent like beauty of Yellowstone, that if you just sit long enough,
Well,
it's going to
so-
talk to you in a way that like is so unique to like, it's almost like, I don't know how to say it other than this was the kind of experience that you and I desperately needed,
yeah.
but that we didn't know that we needed. And the park just provided that to us.
Yellowstone is full of sounds. The sounds, and actually, I have to take a short detour here and talk about. So the episode of Parkography that we just put out on Truman Everett's 37 Days Lost in Yellowstone. Go check it out if you haven't. But I just put that episode together, and the few sound effects I use in it, there's not a ton of them, but the few sound effects that I did use in it, I pulled from Yellowstone's sound library. And Yellowstone has this great sound library of everything, every animal in the park, wildfires, all sorts of different geysers, paint pots, fumaroles, and they all make these unique, different sounds. I came across one that just blew me away. Yellowstone Lake, in the winter, the ice makes like this singing sound. It's a really incredible sound. I
Oh,
listened to
wow.
it. I was like, I don't have a need for it, but there's just so many really cool sounds in Yellowstone to explore. So
Isn't
definitely keep your ears open.
Isn't it really cool that we have rangers that
That do
went and
that sort of stuff?
collected those kinds of sounds for us? How special is that? And how fortunate are we to care about preserving things of that nature? So
Well, at Yosemite, the geologists are cleaning bathrooms and taking entrance fees right now. So,
well, no sounds for us
so
then.
when people say I didn't experience anything different, that's why.
Yep, there you go.
So we loved the fishing bridge area. There is another sort of general store type place there. It's got a little restaurant, which had just opened the day we arrived there.
Yep.
You and I had a drink there.
Nicest guy. Nicest
Really,
sir.
really great staff. I can't say much for the
Just-
food. I mean, we had some nachos, which was like,
sorry. Those nachos hit.
They were-
hit. They were
they were literally like,
movie theater
the
nachos.
generic round tortilla
Oh.
chips, but it was the beginning of season, so they were fresh. And then like the yellow gold cheese out of the can.
So good.
But the drinks were good.
The nachos were
It's
good.
also a decent sized store with a lot of stuff. Like
Yeah.
they even had like a whole row of like gluten-free bread for you.
Their
was
coffee is good. They've got a little coffee and ice cream there too. The coffee was really nice.
There's also a fuel station right there. Because Yellowstone is so big, there's fuel stations and vehicle service stations where they
So
can like
cool.
fix your brakes and stuff. And the one here at Fishing Bridge is a really cool building too. But there's one of those down at Old Faithful as well, and then there's this one here up at Fishing Bridge, and there's fuel stations in both places. There's a fuel station. Well, those are the two fuel stations, I think. No, there's fuel station at Canyon as well.
Yeah.
And so there's there's stuff like that. We actually got propane and diesel here. And I gotta say the prices weren't bad. I was
No.
expecting really high prices for being in a national park.
Well, it's like
Not
I
bad.
said to you, though, that's the Alaska effect.
Yeah, we're
I mean, we're
used to
so
paying so much up there. Yeah.
even 2 years later, I think we're still just like, whoa, that's so cheap after like traveling from Baja to Alaska. Wow, really? Diesel only costs that much?
So we didn't travel south from Fishing Bridge at all. For the
No.
most part, from Fishing Bridge, we went north. So first thing going north from Fishing Bridge is the Mud Volcano area, where we got to go to the Dragon's Mouth Spring, Black Dragon's Cauldron, the Mud Volcano.
Our dragon-loving kid loved it.
Really cool.
So much
just
fun.
Quick little roadside
Yep.
stopover to go in and see these few things. The one sort of the dragons, I think it was the Dragon's Mouth Spring, is the one that makes just like these
That
big
comes just
lashing
splashing
waves come out of the ground.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's like just
really
a
cool.
wave pool. It's so cool.
But then just north of there is the Hayden Valley. And Hayden Valley is one of the places, one of the big valleys. There's a couple big valleys, Lamar being the really famous one.
Yeah, but don't sleep on Hayden, because we had just a wildlife bonanza.
Yeah, so these are
over
great
there.
places to see wildlife. And so now is a good time to talk about bears.
Yeah, let's talk about them.
Stopped counting how many grizzly bears we saw.
Yep, didn't need to count them anymore.
It was
Saw so many, and
we
babies.
actually didn't see any black bears, I don't think.
No, we saw consistently driving back into West Yellowstone about 1.5 miles from the entrance into town. A grizzly.
Yeah, like
2 days
like
in, a teen.
An adolescent
Yeah.
grizzly, yeah.
And stopped one day and saw our friend from a safe distance, unlike others who kept getting out of their car.
It was close to the. I mean, it was
up on the road. There's a little pull off that you can take that kind of follows the Snake River there. You can either do that or you can stay on the main road. And the grizzly was hanging out in between those two roads.
It was maybe 20 feet from the car.
Yeah.
So safe to view from the car.
And
not safe to get out.
Not safe
as
to get out.
the people behind us were doing.
And that was 2 days in a row, coming back in at around the same time, dusk, back into West Yellowstone. So it was kind of hanging out in that area. We saw it 2 days in a row. And we did let a ranger know, because at that point you're getting about 1 mile or so from town. And, we thought, well, we'll just let them know we've seen this in case, they don't know. And then again, in Hayden Valley, basically anytime, cars were stopped, and I'm talking not a few cars, I am talking a full-on 5 o'clock rush hour traffic
It's funny
stop.
because I would stop.
It's a grizzly.
There was a couple places I stopped to record videos of just, sort of me standing up, like the Truman Everett story. I just stopped at a roadside stop that had some like geyser steam in the background. And
It's very pretty.
And if you stop somewhere,
They will stop.
other people will stop because they think you've seen some sort of wildlife.
Did you see Penelope's comment in
No.
mile markers?
No.
She said that they stopped at that. They saw you and they stopped there and saw you recording, but they didn't want to bother you and interrupt
somebody else
you.
stopped and said hi.
Yeah, they didn't want to
I was
interrupt.
like, that wasn't the one. Oh, they should
No,
have.
I know.
That's
I was thinking, I'm sure I can speak for Jason. I'm sure he wished you would have said hi, but they saw, I think it was at or wherever you were at, Mud Volcano or something.
It was at Hayden Valley.
Oh, it was? Okay.
It was near Mud Volcano. It was
Yeah,
Hayden
yeah.
Valley. Or no, actually, I guess it is sort of Hayden Valley, but it was across from Mud Volcano.
Yeah, they said they'd stopped there and saw you recording, but didn't want to interrupt what you were doing.
We met so many of you.
It was
in the park.
amazing.
As opposed to the rest of our trip, Yellowstone, we met so many of you, and it was really everybody that is hearing this that we
Hi.
saw in the park. Hello, it's great to see you again.
So good to see you again. Thank you for saying hi to us. And again, it was so many people being like, we don't want to interrupt you. We don't want to bother you. But we cannot stress it enough. Like, if you see us, say hi to us. I mean, I appreciate that they saw you recording and didn't want to interrupt that because you were trying to tell a story. That was very sweet to think about
there
that.
are other people that are just,
But
I'm not taking up a space. So if people
No.
want to come there, they come there. It's fine.
yeah, but we really do genuinely, it's not a fake. we do genuinely like to meet you and get a chance to talk to the people on the other side of the camera. So that was such a highlight of our time in Yellowstone, the amount of people that we got to run into and spend some time chatting about our experience in the park.
Skylar. Hi, Skylar.
Hi. So
That's the one name I can remember because his unique name. So
we're also really, really bad with names. Listen, all three of my children are named Jack, Ethan, Henry. Like that, they just have the one long
all
name.
three of them
All,
have the same.
all three of them answer to Jack, Ethan, Henry. Because I don't know on a good day. I'm on a good day. They're lucky if I just go, hey Jack, I mean Ethan. Hey Henry, Ethan, Henry, whoever you are, please.
So making our way north, we head up to the canyon area. So Canyon Junction is sort of where, I talked about how it's this sort of O-shaped loop road. And then there's the one road that goes across the middle of it. Canyon Junction is on the east side of that road that goes across the middle.
Yeah.
And it is, I think it's called the Norris Canyon Road or something like that. And the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone River is over here. And this is a site that is unlike anything else in Yellowstone National Park. So this is one of the things about Yellowstone is just like around every corner is like something entirely different. And we did sort of the same thing that we did last time, was there's some drives that you can go to around the canyon, and you can go to some of the well-known overlooks. And we did that, but we also took the trail down to the brink of the lower falls. So this is a trail that takes you down quite a ways, and it won't hurt going down, but coming back up, oh boy, it's a long way up.
Someone asked me, several people asked me, is it worth it? As we were going up and they were going down.
Like, are you more than halfway?
It took everything for me to be like, no, turn around. But then I was like, no, it's beautiful. It's worth it.
But
it is worth it.
If you are somebody that strenuous hikes are not something you can handle, it is quite strenuous.
Or you're
coming back up.
Little feet, little legs.
2 of our children didn't do it.
No, they were like, peace.
They did it
we'll
before,
be in the truck.
and they were like,
been there, done that. Or it's the end of the day. Maybe this is something you want to do on fresher legs. We weren't on the freshest legs when we went to this.
But it's really cool to go down there and be at the edge of this giant waterfall.
The sound is, it's just
the smell.
Incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. So it is worth it, but just it's deceptive because it's like, it's only 0.3 miles or something like that, right? Or it's a round trip of 0.9. And you're like, that's nothing. It's not even a mile. And then it's just switchbacks all the way down and all the way back up.
We also spent some time at the Canyon Village area, where there's a lot of services. So there's a visitor center. We went in the visitor center. We met some folks in the gift shop.
The best.
We bought some art from them in the gift shop. And
we became members of Yellowstone Forever while we were there too. Yeah. We supported the park through that
which
as well.
We found actually gives you a discount at gift shops outside of Yellowstone.
So what a really cool thing. I didn't know this, or maybe I just never listened hard enough. That's quite possible. But so we became members of Yellowstone Forever. We're members for a year. And there are 500 other nonprofit like bookshops within this ecosystem that when you shop at those, you also can get 10% off. So this was $35, I think, for us to join, or $39.99. I think it was $35.
After we bought like 3 books.
This is after we'd already, but that's fine. The money is staying with the park. But we've already picked that back up. I mean, it's national park math.
Yeah.
It's very similar to when you become a mile marker member for $70 for a year. And then you get a discount to homecoming, which is coming up in September. And then it just basically washes itself out just like that. That's exactly what that is. And so
we also went over to the Canyon Lodge and ate at the Canyon Lodge Eatery. I liked it.
Skip that, folks.
Oh, I liked it. I loved it, actually. Because here's the thing.
That was so expensive. And
it's expensive cafeteria.
They gave you, they're like $17 for chicken tender meal. And they gave these kids 2 chicken tenders and 6 French fries.
It was better food than the Old Faithful Lodge.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I loved about going in here too is that one of the things you figure out at Yellowstone when you hop the lodges is that they were all built in different eras.
Yeah.
So whereas the Old Faithful Inn and the Old Faithful Lodge are sort of what you would think of as an old-fashioned national park lodge.
19th century kind of.
This lodge, the Canyon Lodge, is built in the 50s.
So it's got a
And
mid-mod
it
kind of.
screams 50s.
Yeah. Now I will walk back my critique of it a little bit and say that at least so over in Old Faithful it's like barbecue and some pretty standard hot dogs and things like that, which
Yeah.
and all that. Now over here they have no barbecue and they've replaced kind of the barbecue with Asian cuisine. So and I use that loosely,
But like bowls, like
it's bowls. So you can get
it's Panda
rice. Yeah,
Express.
it's Panda Express. But even still, Panda Express is like it makes their seasoning seem off the charts. So
It's
that's what
unseasoned Panda
it's unse-
Express.
So that is not a compliment. And so that's what I had.
Yeah.
So perhaps what you all had
Mhm.
tasted a little bit better. What
I
I
had
had
chili.
was
It was good.
okay. I had unseasoned Panda Express, and it was very expensive unseasoned Panda Express. But that said, what I also like is that they have in the seating area in these cafeterias, they do have the fountain drinks out there. So it's not like you order a soda or a tea or whatever, and they just hand you one and then you can't get free refills on it. At least like with that, if you order something like a soda or a tea, they have that out there. It's self-serve for you to do, and you can have as many multiple refills
It's
as you would like of that, which I appreciate.
I just love the architecture because it's like it's the 50s version of a national park lodge. It's got like
Yeah.
the mid-mod
It's cool.
like fireplaces and stuff and all of the decor
A
is
Frank Lloyd Wright Airstream would look right at home parked in that parking lot. I'm just saying.
it's sort of more the colorful 50s but it was pretty it was neat for me to visit, especially compared with the next lodge we'll talk about in a minute. So we also went over to while we were staying at Fishing Bridge, Norris Geyser Basin,
Mhm.
this is sort of on the other side of that road that traverses the center of the park on the western side of the park. Norris is one of our favorite places in the park, and it's a place that a lot of people skip. Don't skip it.
Don't skip it. It's great.
But this was a long way from the campground. It took us like, I don't know, 40 minutes to get there.
Yeah, but it's worth it. This
And-
is one of my favorite parts of the park.
Norris Geyser Basin is a great place to go at sunset and even after sunset.
That blue hour is so magical there.
Because there's the Norris Geyser Basin has Steamboat Geyser and a few others. And then on the northern half of it is the Porcelain Geyser Basin, which is sort of part of it. And it looks like porcelain. But not only that, it sort of kind of glows in the evening. And
Mhm.
it's just really magical. There are also all sorts of little bits of things that make all kinds of different noises.
All kinds of noises. And
Um,
during this time that we were there, we also had a really great ranger encounter
oh, right.
too. Because
the
again,
hares.
rangers, they're awesome and they're worth our support.
And
So
if you see one just kind of standing somewhere,
they're
it's very possible that they're kind of making sure everything's okay
Yeah.
with something or guarding something.
Yeah.
And that might be something really interesting to look at.
and they want to tell you all about it too. So
Yeah.
we met this ranger that was kind of standing off of kind of where the main walkway begins. And he, unprompted, I didn't come up and be like, hey, what's going on? He was like, oh, there's snow hares over here. There's multiple snow hares. And he's like, and you can see that if you look at their paws and their nose, they still have their white winter coat on, but they're starting to shed that. And so I'm talking to him, and first off, this man's mustache it had the little curlies on the end. It was a really solid looking mustache. He was a pretty cool dude. And so we stood and he told us a little bit about the hares. He kind of like helped facilitate our safe interaction with them, like getting some pictures and bringing others in and talking to them. And then he and I got talking about how, again, anyone who will listen, we always are like, the male moose has eluded us. And so I was telling him about that. And then he was like, oh, this is a really great place. And he was telling me about an interaction that he had had. And he took his phone out and he was like, look at this video that I just captured. He was so enthusiastic about this place. Like, and this is what's so wonderful about your encounter with rangers in the park is that they chose this life. Like, they want to protect and preserve and educate and talk to you about these places.
And well, especially at a place like Yellowstone, where
It's
a lot of people are
amazing.
there to find animals. Like, that's
And
their goal. And the rangers are really good at telling you where the
where to go.
animals are going to be.
But what I loved about this footage that he showed me was he was like, oh, also, just so you know, I recorded this through binoculars. Like, that's how far away he was. He had been on binoculars and he had found one. And so
And-
then he put his phone to the binoculars in order to get the footage of the moose so that they could get a better, like, they could kind of see which one is that, what it, like, but that's the level of
And
like,
that's a great tip, actually, to mention that binoculars came in very useful to us.
Yeah.
We have a great pair of binoculars, or a long wildlife lens. I've got a great wildlife lens.
yeah.
Great one. Was sitting on the shelf at home.
Yeah, it loved
Forgot
its
to bring it.
it
with.
loved its 8 weeks in Iowa while we were away.
But
So
but this
sad.
wildlife we did not need that for, because these snow hares, this was probably my favorite animal experience of the trip. These snow hares were really cute to watch, and they're
so
super fast,
active and-
very active.
Oh, you wanted to cuddle it. So it's just so cute and just cuddly looking. And even the ranger was like, oh, I just so want to pick one up. But everyone knows that you can't, and you respect the hare's space and
Yeah.
that you're all trying to live in it together. But they were just so cute and charming. And we had that little interaction there. And again, that was a perfect interaction for our family. Like, Henry was like, I want one of these, Mom. Can we get one? And I was like, nope, we cannot, but we can enjoy looking at them right here.
So one of our last experiences in Yellowstone, we left the kids behind and kind of had a date night, and we drove up to the Mammoth area. So Mammoth is near the north entrance of the park. It's the park headquarters area. It's the most developed area of the park. A lot of the ranger housing is there. And we left the kids. It was like an hour 20 to drive up there.
It was a drive.
So
we
left them.
trusted.
They were fine.
We had service.
I mean, one of them's 17, right?
I know. We
So-
had service the whole time. They knew where we were going. We had all the safety in place, and they were fine. They could not kick us out fast enough.
I will say that is one of the changes we have noticed since our last time at Yellowstone. We had Starlink, so we could have the Starlink set
Mhm.
up, but cell service is better.
Yeah.
And this is before they're planning a project to run more cell service through the park, because they have these big ugly towers that sit on top of mountains and stuff that are for ranger radio communications. And the main reason they want to add more cell service, a lot of people are against this for a lot of obvious reasons, but they feel like there's a big safety factor. Also, they can actually remove some infrastructure to put more cell service in. But the long story short, it's already a lot better than it was our
Mhm.
last time there.
Yeah.
So we go up to the Mammoth area, and we took a little walking tour of all the ranger housing, which was cute.
This is how much Jason loves me. He went on
I
a
enjoyed it.
walking
I
tour
enjoyed
with
it.
me. But
We go to the Albright Visitor Center, which is a visitor center up there, and it's small, but there are a couple things to learn and see there, and again, another gift shop, another place to get a stamp. But then we went to the Mammoth Hotel, and we had dinner at the Mammoth Hotel dining room, and vastly different from our other dining experiences, which were just kind of okay cafeteria food in the park. This was a sit-down meal, and it was a really, really nice meal.
It was great.
It was really good meal. I think we both had the half chicken, right?
We both had the half chicken. We both had a starter. We both had an entree. We both had a dessert. We both had a cocktail.
My starter was this great red pepper soup that was really good. Our server was great.
So
the drinks were great. And it was a great feel because this hotel is very much 30s themed. It's very sort of Art Deco.
Yeah, it's got a great like Agatha Christie sort of Poirot sort of feel, like those like you could totally see just that style and like that environment of the 30s. And I go back and forth on whether or not Old Faithful or Mammoth now is like my favorite hotel. Like, I really think I liked the lounge better here at Mammoth. It had these huge high back chairs.
The lounge at Mammoth, if you have not been to this lounge, it's a Mammoth Hotel map room bar. We didn't have a drink here. We just kind of sat and hung out in this lounge a little bit.
We were saving our cocktail for dinner.
It is all wooden. It has this giant wood map of the United States on the wall. It's very 30s, and it's just really stylish and beautiful.
I would like the next time to sit down and have a cocktail. And I was like, oh, Jason, wouldn't it be great if we'd brought like a deck of cards or something and we sat by the window?
Or we solved a murder mystery.
Yes, we solved a murder mystery would actually be way better. But it's a really cool space. And then, you go across the hall, or actually you leave because the map bar is in the hotel section where like the check-in and everything is. But then the dining room is in a completely separate building across the street. So then we went over there and had just it was such a good dinner.
But this is also a great area to picnic.
Yes.
When we were there in August last time, there were a lot of elk just roaming the streets here.
Hanging out.
We didn't see very many elk at all on this trip. So I think that's the difference from our last time in August, this time in May. This time we saw lots of bear. Last time we saw no bear. This time we've seen
baby bison.
We've seen a lot of baby bison, and we didn't see any babies last time. And we saw bison both times, lots of bison both times.
Yeah.
But lots of elk in August and very few elk this time. While we were up at Mammoth, we obviously visited the Mammoth Hot Springs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mammoth Hot Springs, this is hard to describe, but it's like a big sort of multi-tier birthday cake of like, it's not geysers. It's sort of like spring water that like rolls over the edge and builds up these formations.
It's just another surprise in this park. It's just another surprise.
It's incredible. And so you can walk up lots of stairs to get to the top of this. Mm-hmm. We were about to do that. And we were like, it had been a long day already. And this lady was like, do yourself a favor and drive up to the top.
And we were like, and we will. Thank you.
So we did. And
because we just ate a very big dinner.
We did not do this the last time. And this time it was really great to experience because there was nobody else up there.
Oh, it was great.
There's a scenic drive that takes you through the sort of top of the Mammoth Hot Springs. It's a 1.5 mile loop. It's one way. And it was a sort of new discovery for us to drive this little scenic drive in through this area. A few pull-offs where you could stop and get sort of overview looks of the whole hot springs. But it was a great sort of way to cap off this little evening that you and I had. And then on our way home, again, a long drive back.
And we go through Hayden Valley.
We go through Hayden Valley on the way back. And I see this woman standing on this bridge that I thought was a moose. I thought she was the moose. I was like, Abby, it's a moose.
Abby,
it's a moose.
Abby, it's happening.
I pull over and I'm like, oh wait, that's a photographer.
It's a photographer with a long lens and camo. But Jason was trying to manifest that male moose so bad.
But we figured out what she was looking at pretty quick. There was a wolf.
There was a wolf.
And we've never seen a wolf in the wild before. And
oh my gosh.
And in Yellowstone, you can see them often. Usually they're way off in the distance and you really got to have like a spotting scope or something like that. This was not that
This
far
little
away.
buddy had probably crossed the road before we got
It
there.
was not very far away at all.
It was one of those things where you're like, I just saw a Yellowstone wolf. What more? What more is there for me to ever do in life? Like it to have what I can't put it into words. It was I'll never forget it. I'll
Yeah.
never
We got maybe
forget it.
15 seconds with it. It
Just
went over a ridge and was gone.
just the briefest, but just enough to just
And
be
this was
so honored to be in its presence.
this was dusk. This was after sunset. After sunset's a great time for stuff like this.
It was still light out. It was plenty. I mean, because you've got almost an hour really after the sun sets. And so it was still plenty of light to be able to make it out. We knew kind of, and we had our binoculars and we, were able to grab them and then really get a view of it. It was beautiful, light brown. And wow, just what a way to cap off. That was like the best date we've ever been on. That was great. That was we only we only had to go thousands and thousands of miles to make it happen.
So that was the majority of our trip. There is one little bit I want to add here, though, is that we also exited out of the east entrance to the park, and Fishing Bridge is sort of kind of at the end of the east entrance road out of the park. And we go out to see the east entrance. I don't know what any of us were expecting.
Not that.
But it was a whole new world.
We were sleeping on the east entrance and it reminded, wow.
You go around
the
edge of Yellowstone Lake. There was plenty more wildlife on the way. And then you go through a mountain range that is just mountain lakes and snow and stunning and huge and dramatic and wild.
And all of my anxiety through that mountain pass and all of what I was managing, I was still able to cut through all that noise and appreciate the stunning beauty of driving through the east entrance. And what's really cool about this, though, is even though we were like, wow, we've really been sleeping on this part of the park, we now have this part of the park to come back to.
We have a few parts to go back to. We
There's
have that
so
to come
much
back
still to explore.
We didn't get to do, so if you were paying attention up to the quadrants, we didn't go down to the lowest part of the southeast quadrant, down to the West Thumb Geyser Basin and that area of the park. We were not able to go to the northeast quadrant of the park at all because that section of the road was closed still for this season. So I think it's really important, though, for people to not think, oh, well, this is closed, so I'm not going to go to Yellowstone right now because that's closed.
No,
there's always going to be something closed. And so don't think that those are reasons to not go.
Yeah, and we should put into perspective here too that we did 3 nights in West Yellowstone, and then we had 5 nights, I believe, 5 or 6 nights in Fishing Bridge.
Yeah.
So we had a week in the park. And on top of all of that, we were still working and we still had, we were still living life. So
do as much work as we did the last time, though. So we did have a lot of time to explore.
No. And this is about the point where we just were like, okay, everybody, things are going to start falling.
Gonna be late.
Well, things are going to start falling off because we're in this really magical place right now. And we just have to soak this up. Like, what an opportunity to be here as the park is waking up for the season, as, the wildflowers are just starting to bloom. The leaves are just starting to come out onto the trees. Like the wildlife is waking up and it's, the babies are everywhere. And it fat pelicans wherever you look. I mean, it was just crazy awesome.
One of the scenic drives that we loved last time was closed. We didn't get to go out to Lamar Valley. We didn't get to do any hiking because the trails were just
they're a mess.
mud and snow.
Yeah, we talked about that on Grand Teton. It's not something we're doing.
Those are issues that if you're a big hiker, that's an issue that you might deal with or you might love, but there are challenges like that. Yellowstone is a challenging environment, and that's what makes it so special. So that was our experience at Yellowstone National Park.
Hopefully you're still here and listening to this episode because it was a doozy, but there's so much to cover. And we want to, I don't think we can express enough, even if we did this for hours and hours, just how unexpected this park is at like every turn. It's just, it just is waiting for you to discover it. And your experience is going to be so different than ours.
I think a lot of people see a couple photos of geysers and they're like, well, this isn't something, I'm not that into it. Don't. Yellowstone has everything.
Yeah.
It has it all. It might not be in the most famous areas. You might have to go to other places to find it. It's got it all.
No, that's why we've been protecting it since the 19th century, because it's very, very special.
And it's very uniquely American as well, which is really cool.
Absolutely. All right, it is time to check the level of our tanks. And this is sponsored by our friends over at Liquefied RV Toilet Treatment, the no BS toilet treatment. You can find them over at liquefiedrv.com. All right, Jason, what is in your black tank this week?
So you and I went to the farmer's market the other day. So it's farmer's market season. We love going to the farmer's market. We've got a couple of here. I'll talk about. There's two of them across the river from each other, but I'll talk about the main one we went to is the big one. And I love going to a farmer's market. We love going to sort of farmer's market and farm stands on the road when we're traveling. One thing I've learned about farmer's markets just by going to this one a lot though, however, is, sometimes you go to them and you'll be like, wow, how are they growing that right now? And you realize that maybe some of the stuff they're selling isn't local at all. And you can ask them, and sometimes they have it on their sign, like, oh yeah, these watermelon are from Florida. These strawberries are from
avocados from
wherever
Mexico.
they're from, which is fine, I guess. And they're coming from another farmer or whatever, but some of the stuff they're selling, particularly when they're a little early season, when they're a little out of season, whatever, is the same stuff that you're getting at the grocery store.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So just, that's our faults for, as consumers, for just always wanting whatever we want,
demanding strawberries
instead of like
365
eating what's in season when it's in season. So just, when you think about going to a farmer's market, look for the stuff that would be in season this time of year.
Yeah. And you're supporting your local farmer. So support your local farmer. That's really, really important. And that's really what should be the backbone of farmers markets. It shouldn't be about, the food trucks and all that stuff's really nice. I don't want to be coming down on the farmer's market. I really like all that stuff. But at the heart of it, I'm trying to get our weekly shopping list to a place where I can.
The food trucks and the food stands is like, some of them are fantastic and some of them are like using food from the ingredients from the farmers.
And that's really cool.
And some of them are predatory. Like there's the one that we went to that's part of my fresh tank over here. There's another little one on our street here. So my fresh tank, I'll just
let's roll into your fresh tank.
Is our little downtown Rock Island where we have this Mile Zero studio. There's been this big construction project going on to rehab the streetscapes, and they went down to the sewers and replaced all the sewers and stuff. This is a really old historic downtown. There are not a lot of businesses down here, which is why we're down here. It was cheap. And, but now this big project's pretty close to done. Like our street is done and they've got these, gorgeous, plantings. They do a great job with all of the landscaping and the grass and the flower boxes and everything. And it looks really gorgeous. And I'm really proud of our little downtown. But we have a farmer's market over here too. So we're on the Illinois side and then across the river, just out the door. I could throw a rock over there if the Mississippi wasn't so wide.
Yeah.
To the Davenport side where the big farmer's market is. But we've got our own little farmer's market over here, which was much smaller. And there's this one one restaurant that had a stand at the farmer's market, and they're selling like $5 Folgers drip coffee.
They were trying to sell me a cup of coffee, like a 12-ounce cup of drip coffee for $5. And I was like, stop the noise. I like literally, I want to get off.
But also,
I'm
why
out
are
of
we
here.
having these two farmers markets on the same day?
Well, look, I don't mind that. I'll bounce between the two. Or
Right,
I
but
mean,
I think you have a better chance of getting the vendors from that one. So you could have the one on the weekday, on the weekends, and have the other one on a weeknight.
I can't get into the politics of farmers markets, Jason. I don't know. I take it up with the city council at the next meeting. Talk to the new mayor.
What's in your black tank this week?
So my black tank is it's camping season, PSA, everybody. We're all out at the campground now. I had a friend send me a video the other day that was someone sitting at their campsite, and they happened to catch their neighbor who was, I think, getting ready to leave the campground. And they had their sewer hose, and they walked over to the neighboring freshwater spigot for the other campsite and shoved their sewer hose into that and turned the water on and proceeded to rinse out their sewer hose, allowing that water to drip all over the ground as they continued to let it drip as they walked away and passed the picnic table where they dripped water.
The ridiculous things we see people do with sewer hoses. I've seen that a lot. So you haven't seen that a lot. I've seen, because I'm out there doing the.
I know you're out there doing the hard work. Looking for the news.
It's not harder. I know. I'm talking about when I'm at the campground. Like, when I'm undoing the sewer and other people are, and I see them doing this stuff.
You know what? Like, you better be glad I don't see them.
Well,
in human form.
This is why a lot of people
I'd be talking to that clown.
A lot of people like to sanitize the spigot before they hook up to it. I'm going to start doing that. Because that's gross.
Do I think any of you listening? This is more about like we're all just going to talk about this together. Do I think any of you are doing that? I don't think so. If you are, I know I'm being really super snotty right now, but I just need you to understand, or I need your friend to understand, or share this little clip with a friend. I need you to understand how unsanitary
it's also not
that
necessary.
Is, and it's so rude.
It doesn't do anything. Look,
rude.
I do the same thing that most people do. Is you dump the black tank, and then you've got a full gray tank of like soapy shower water. I mean, you could see the suds coming out of the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what follows it out. And I'm done. I don't go and rinse it again.
With his gloveless hands.
I don't. And if you do want to rinse it again, you could. Like they actually make an attachment that you can attach to it that takes a hose. So you can attach a hose to it and rinse out that way. But I don't rinse it out. I don't dry them out. A lot of people, this is another thing we've seen, people laying them over their picnic tables to let them drip dry out. Just put it in the bin.
I ask you, and then we'll move on from this, but I do ask you, are you okay with someone else doing that to the campsite before you arrive?
They're just moving germs around. They're not even cleaning anything. It's just moving the germs around.
Yeah. So if it's something that you've done in the past, or, just like whatever, let's not do it. Just please don't do it.
I mean,
I don't know what else to say.
There is a way to go to a water spigot and rinse your sewer hose out without touching it. Like I've done that where, like, I didn't have you maybe at a dump station where there's only a spigot and they don't have a hose for you, and they break the hose hook off so you don't hook a hose up. Yeah. You turn the water spigot on, and at a dump station, of course, you're not trying to make it. You don't care if it's touching whatever, because everything's gross. But like, you keep the hose 6 inches away from the spigot and it's spraying down in it or something like that.
Right, but you don't walk away with the sewer hose letting the water just drain out anywhere onto the ground. No, you're letting it go, because generally those two things, like the water spigot is generally right near the hookup for the black tank.
I would do it while the hose is still hooked up to the dump.
This individual
No, I know.
walked back,
Yeah.
they had to walk so far to get back to their RV that the person filming them never actually got back to the RV with them. Like, I mean, it's really
All right,
gross.
what's in your fresh tank?
So this is a fresh tank that I kind of always break out every summer, but I think it's a fun reminder of things that you can search that are maybe outside of the box a little bit when you're out and traveling around in your RV. And that is going and enjoying like minor league baseball. So we have a single A, is that how you, is that?
Mhm.
Yeah, single A baseball team here at what is the oldest minor league park in the country. It's a beautiful park. It sits right on the Mississippi. It's wonderful. We have the Quad City River Bandits. Yes, I think I said that right.
You did. You finally said it right.
I normally call them the River City Bandits. Apparently that's not right. They are the Quad City River Bandits.
River City's from the Music Man.
Yeah, that is River City. And so there's 76 trombones.
Cash for the merchandise.
So we went last night, and often it's a really inexpensive way to get out and enjoy not only the local town that you're visiting, but get out and enjoy some sports because that's a very expensive pastime now. But
$2 tickets.
$2. So on Tuesdays, when the Bandits are here in town, they do $2 Tuesdays. So it's $2 tickets, $2 hot dogs, and $2 sodas.
I don't know why they do all that. I mean, I think they should. If
I love it
as a business person, I love it too. But I would think the best way to do it would be like $2 tickets, but then you pay full price for the food and beer and stuff.
No, I think that this is what I love about this.
I'll take it.
Well, yes, because our family can go for $10 to get in. Let's say everybody buys a hot dog, that's another $10, and drinks, that's another $10. So we've all had a drink, a hot dog, and we've been at a game for $30. That's unheard of for our family to do anything anymore for $30. And they have had $2 Tuesdays for as long as we have been going.
Yeah,
so
it hasn't gone
this
up.
is not gone up. So it's over the years. So this is something that they do. And I think that this is really cool. Like as you travel around, like look for these things, look for these local minor baseball teams that you can go check out. Like
Major League Baseball teams, as long as they're not a super popular one, sometimes they'll have family nights where they've got like dollar hot dogs and stuff.
Royals games are still really expensive they suck.
That's because they got good for a while. Now they suck again.
I know, but now you would think that they would have.
No, if they stayed sucking. But if you can go to the White Sox and you can go to a day game and you're going to be.
Who in their right mind is going to a White Sox game?
The White Sox.
I have standards.
The White Sox have some of the best food in the major leagues.
I can't do that.
Do you really? You're going to minor league baseball. Do you really care what team is playing? I don't.
Are you telling me, as a lifelong Cubs fan?
Yeah, I've been to several Sox games and had a lot of fun.
I don't understand that. I don't understand that. That's like saying you're going to go to a Packers game. I don't understand that nonsense.
No, I wouldn't do that.
Okay, see, there we all have our limits, I guess. So anyway, that's my fresh tank. Get out there. You don't need to go to a Packers game. Sorry, friends. I know we got some Packers friends here. You don't need to go to a Packers game. Don't need to go to a Sox game, but you can go and enjoy some fun AA, single A, triple A baseball across the country this summer.
That's it for this week's episode of the RV Miles podcast.
Yes, it is. And I alluded to it earlier on, but I just want to remind everybody that Homecoming is coming up this September 24th through the 28th in Amana, Iowa.
Where?
Amana, Iowa. Really? It is going to be such a great time. Not only is it inexpensive to camp, it's only $35 a night for full hookup camping, but then also the ticket is really quite inexpensive when you consider everything we're doing. You're going to get community dinners every night. We're going to have great prizes and giveaways and games. We're going to do a rig crawl. We're going to head into town to go for happy hour at the brewery.
We lose money on this every year.
We don't make money. This is not
financial endeavor for us. This is a party.
We literally do this for us. This is for us to have a party for 4 days where we get to hang out with all of you. The corn sweat has left the area by then. It is such a great time. Amana is so beautiful. this time of year. Amana colonies, look it up if you don't know what the Amana colonies are. But we would really like to invite you to come to homecoming with us. We're going to have seminars in the morning. We're going to do our RV consumer roundtable again. That was such a fantastic consumer roundtable last year. We got so much information out of you guys to take back to the industry. It's gonna be such a good time.
And if you've been before, we've got a lot of plussing it up that we planned for this year.
Is that the theme song? Did I just hum it right?
You did,
Did I get close? So that's a game that's in the mix right now. But also, kids 17 and under, they're free. We don't charge for your little people, for the ones that you already have to take care of and feed and try and figure out like how to put clothes on their back and all of that good stuff. Kids are expensive. We do not charge for them to come to these events. So please bring your family. Come and join us at homecoming. Go to rvmiles.com/homecoming to learn more. And we hope to see you in Amana in September. But until then, please stay healthy. Book that trip to Yellowstone. You will not regret it. And keep logging those RV miles.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.